Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to replace the alternator in your BMW E90, E92, or E93. So basically, if your vehicle's battery has been dying on you and you replace the battery in your BMW and the new battery that you install ends up dying as well, then you can assume that the alternator is the culprit of this. When the alternator gives out, it's basically going to siphon all the power from the new battery or whichever battery you have in there. It's going to cause a whole bunch of electrical issues, such as your transmission malfunctioning, a whole bunch of check engine lights, and weird codes. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to remove your alternator and install a new one. Alright guys, so first thing we're going to go ahead and do is pull off the negative terminal to the battery. That way we prevent ourselves from getting shocked or injuring ourselves. You're literally just going to get a 10mm socket and pull that off. Just like that. Now get a towel or something and just pull that off, basically. And we're going to wrap it up completely so it doesn't touch anything metal. Put that off to the side right there. Alright, so first thing we go ahead and do is remove this little snorkel for the intake. It's held in by two T20 screws. I already went ahead and loosened them, so I'm going to pop this off. So from here, I'm going to go ahead and basically just pull this boot off of my air intake here. And I'm going to pull this snorkel out, put this off to the side. Alright, so the main objective is I'm basically going to go ahead and get this air box out of the way. So to get this air box out of the way, I'm going to go ahead and start off by removing these two 10mm bolts. Put that off to the side. Put that off to the side as well. Use the washers that are held in right here. So put those off to the side as well. We're going to go ahead and get our flathead screwdriver and remove the intake boot. Sweet, so we're going to go and get our flathead screwdriver, pop off our mass airflow sensor. And those should be a little push tab, but mine is snapped off, so we're just going to back that off. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and loosen this band clamp. Yep. Sweet, and now from here, once that intake boot is backed off, we're going to go ahead and just remove our air box. And the best way to go about this is to basically hold the band clamp while you're unscrewing it with a flathead right here. So you hold it, that way it doesn't squirm around and it's hard to freaking manage. So now you guys can see we have access to our E12 bolts holding in our alternator. Alright guys, so the first thing you want to go ahead and do is remove the electrical connector to the alternator. So go ahead and do that. You should just literally be able to pinch it and pull it out. Just like that. And this thing is coated in oil, as you guys can see. That is disgusting. Oh wow. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and clean that off after, but we'll put that off to the side. Alright guys, so now what we're going to go ahead and do is pull off this 13mm nut holding the positive cable to the alternator. Just be extremely careful not to drop this. Yeah, just like that. We're going to put that off to the side. I'm just going to wrap that off in a cloth just to prevent this from touching anything and sparking anything off. Alright guys, and basically what we're going to go ahead and do to relieve this serpentine belt's tension off, that way we can take off the alternator and the idler pulley, is we're going to get a T60 and we're going to fit it right here in that hole. And we're going to turn this wrench clockwise and relieve the tension off of the belt. Alright guys, so now we're going to go ahead and turn this clockwise. We're basically going to get this belt to come off the alternator. Just like that. And now there's going to be a cap right here over this idler pulley. You're literally just going to get a flathead screwdriver and pop it off. And we're going to take off this 16mm bolt that's connecting the idler pulley to the alternator itself. Okay, so right here. And now from here as well as already loosening it, but you can basically take off you can basically go ahead and take off your idler pulley as well. Sweet guys, so now we have our 4 E12 bolts that we're going to go ahead and get off. So we're going to go ahead and get our E12 socket on there. Remember, lefty loosey, righty tighty. And we're just going to sit there and remove all 4. Sweet. And this is going to come off with it, guys. Basically like a little washer, and it also holds the hose right here, so make sure you don't lose that. And 4. Bam, all 4 bolts removed. Now we can simply grab our alternator and go ahead and pull it on out. Yeah guys, and this is the old alternator. You can see it's easy to see why it failed. I mean, it was at 200,000 miles, so it definitely did its job. 200,000 miles is pretty impressive, but look at all this oil residue. This is from whoever the previous owner was before I owned the car. I guess he had a valve cover leak and he allowed it to leak all over the alternator. I'm so surprised this thing lasted as long as it did, considering this thing is absolutely covered in oil. Like, this thing is, I don't know how it even got to that mileage. This is the new alternator. It's an Optima, so I usually never ever buy freaking aftermarket alternators, but this thing does have a lifetime warranty, and I needed it in a crunch. It has a lifetime warranty. If I have any issues with it, I'll bring it back to O'Reilly's and get a new one. One of my buddies at Mercedes was able to hook me up and get me a sick discount on it. So yeah guys, honestly pretty hyped. Let's go ahead and throw this thing in. And so you guys can see right here, this is the bracket that's gonna sit in. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna grab this cloth, clean out some of this freaking gunk from where the alternator sits right here, and bam, just like that. And now you're really just gonna want to support this thing while you thread through the bolts. And I went ahead and went for the bottom bolts first, guys. Basically just held this thing in, threaded them through. I go for the bottom bolts because that's what supports most of the weight. We're just gonna hand thread these through. And so these are aluminum bolts, guys. You do not want to reuse these. You want to go ahead and get new ones. With aluminum bolts, once they get threaded through, they basically end up securing themselves to the threads and warping. So if you reuse them, you risk them untorquing themselves. So I'm in a pinch right now, so I can't exactly do that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna install this, and then after the fact, tomorrow or a different day, I'll get new bolts and throw them in there. I really don't think anything bad is gonna happen, but for your own liability, just make sure that you guys replace these. Sweet, and then we're gonna go ahead and hand thread these through. And you always wanna hand thread first, that way you risk not freaking... Yeah. All right guys, and for these bolts, I'm basically going a star pattern so this thing evenly sits itself. So I'm going from here to here to here to here. Remember, they are aluminum bolts, so you don't want to go freaking bananas with the torque. You just want to seat it. Once you feel resistance, give it like a little 1/8 turn, then move on to the next one. Like I said, they're aluminum, they will snap on you. Sweet. Grab that thing. That thing is completely sat in there, good to go. Alright guys, and now from here you want to go ahead and grab that idler freaking pulley that you had, and you want to go ahead and install this. So we're going to go ahead and slide it in right here. Alright guys, and then we're going to get that idler pulley and literally just hand thread this thing into place on the new alternator. And you want to tighten this thing nice and snug. And now from here, you're basically going to go through and seat your serpentine belt correctly, making sure that it's sat all along. You're just going to go all along your serpentine belt and make sure everything is sat correctly. Basically going to have to get that T60 back in there and then get this belt over the top of this alternator. Sure. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do that and then slide this over the alternator with the free hand that I have. Be able to get it on there just like that. Everything's sat, and then slowly release it back. Here as well, you can see our belts on there nice and good. And you're basically just going across all the points and making sure that the belt was able to get secured on correctly. All right guys, and for the serpentine belt, you have to make sure it's routed properly. I'm gonna go ahead and leave a link down below for the diagram of the serpentine belt. If it's not routed properly and you start the car, that belt will shred and it'll break a whole bunch of things along with it. So you have to make sure the belt is along those teeth perfectly. I grab that connector that I mentioned to begin with, and you can actually use electrical cleaner in there, but I don't see any contaminants in the actual connector, so you know what, that is fine by me. So we're going to pull off our protective cover here, and we're going to snap this thing into place just like that. And now from here we're going to back off our 13mm nut and washer. We're going to snap this cable on. Simply slip that on, and we're going to go ahead and put this up in the little ridge that the new alternator has supplied for us. And we're gonna make sure it's nice and tight. And we're gonna give it just a little 1/8 turn, just like that. Bam, so now all of our connections are tight. Go ahead and grab that alternator, give it a nice little shake. And that, guys, looks good to go. From here, I'm gonna connect that air box. We can go ahead and start the vehicle up. From here, we're gonna go ahead and slip our air box back into position, just like this. Slide this boot all the way forward. So we're just gonna tighten our band clamp here. We're just gonna hold it in place. All right, so we're just gonna hand thread these guys. We're not gonna tighten them all the way, because if you do, the rest of that front won't line up. So go ahead and just hand thread them. From here, we're gonna get our snorkel, slide it on in position. All right, guys, now we're gonna come back here. We're just gonna reconnect our battery. Try to do it as safely as possible. And thread this thing on. And so now the last thing we're gonna go ahead and do, rather than just turning the car on, I don't wanna risk the battery being dead and making the starter work extra hard for no reason. I'm basically just gonna go ahead and jump start the car, and we're gonna jump it from the front. So positive terminal here, and then we have our negative little ground right there. Right there. And now we'll go ahead and pop our ground on. Now we're gonna let this sit for a minute or two, and then we'll power on the other car, and then we'll try to power on my car. Cool, so now the alternator is fully installed, guys. We went ahead and connected my battery. So now I'm basically gonna prime all the electronics before I start the car. So you can see that my head unit turned on, all my lights turned on, and I'm literally gonna click the button just like that. Basically, I just want all the electronics and stuff to render, because we just did a lot of like work on the electrical system. And now I'm just gonna go ahead and start the car, guys. And yeah, guys, we're basically just gonna let the car idle like this here for a few minutes. We're not gonna power the car off, because we basically want this alternator to go ahead and charge up the battery. So yeah, just leave it like this for a few minutes. Maybe even give it some revs up at 1500 and hold it right there. So don't worry about any of these lights, guys. I'm gonna go ahead and clear these off, like the airbag and stuff. I don't know why exactly that's there. But you can see none of the lights are like flickering crazy. Like all the electronics are doing what they're supposed to. So basically, yeah, the alternator is good to go. Well, guys, that is how you guys replace your alternator on your BMW E90, E92, or E93. So this tutorial works for most BMWs of this era because most of them have the alternator in the same exact place, and most of them take the same alternator from Bosch. So if your old alternator looks crusty and dingy like this, and you get stranded, now you guys know how to replace it. If you guys found this video helpful, go and smash that thumbs up. I'm gonna go ahead and leave a link down below for all of the equipment that I used and a diagram of that Serpentine belt. That way you guys know how to route it properly. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment down below. Don't be scared. And if you're not subscribed, smash that subscribe button and stay tuned for more videos to come. As always, I love y'all. Thank y'all for the support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace out.